Welcome to Too Fond of Books. My name is Janelle, and this is my first recommendations video for Cloak and Dagger Christmas. If you have not seen the announcement videos for that, or if you don't know what Cloak and Dagger Christmas is, I'm going to link to the announcement video here in the cards and down in the description box below, so check that out. Cloak and Dagger Christmas is a month-long readathon where we read mysteries during the month of December, and I would be so excited if you joined us. So for this recommendation video, I am going to give you my recommendations for the prompt, A Partridge in a Pear Tree, which is to read mysteries with alliterative titles. Now, I have lots here, and I didn't have time to collect all the books myself. I like to hold up the actual book when I can, but this time I'm just going to be posting the pictures here on the screen. So here are my recommendations for mysteries with alliterative titles. First up is Midnight at Malabar House by Vaseem Khan. You can double up here because this would also count for the Three French Hens prompt of reading possibly of reading a mystery, a translated mystery, or one set in a country different from your own. Midnight at Malabar House is the winner of the Crime Writers Association Sapphire Books Historical Dagger from 2021. This was a really fun mystery. It's set in Bombay in 1950. The book opens on New Year's Eve, 1949. Our main character is Persis Wadia, and she is the first female detective in Bombay. And so she's working on New Year's Eve, and at midnight she gets a call to go investigate a murder. And I really enjoyed it. It was a good mystery. Persis is an interesting character. Her father owns a bookstore. So yeah, that's my first recommendation. Next up is the Mr. and Mrs. Darcy series by Carrie Bebris. This is a series set in the Regency time period where Elizabeth and Darcy are the main characters. So if you're a fan of Jane Austen, this is a great mystery series. There are a few, not all of the books in this series fit the alliterative prompt, but most of them do. Pride and Prescience, Suspense and Sensibility, North by Northanger, The Matters at Mansfield, and Suspicion at Sanditon. There's just two in the series that don't fit the alliterative prompt. So there's lots of options here. So if you've already started this series, you could potentially keep going. I love this series. I love how Carrie Bebris writes the characters of Elizabeth and Darcy. I think she gets it right. She gets their relationship right. She gets the tone right. And the mysteries are just super fun. Now, just to qualify, the first two books in this series, if you've read one or two and you might be concerned, the first two books have a supernatural aspect to them. And if that's not your thing, then that's okay, because those are the only two books where that happens. The rest of the series does not have those supernatural aspects. So if that's something that you're not a big fan of, maybe try starting with the third book in the series, which is North by Northanger, and just go on from there. Okay, next up we have a series set in Singapore in 1910, written by A.M. Stuart, and there's three right now: Singapore Sapphire, Revenge in Rubies, and Evil in Emerald. So this, you could also double up here because these could potentially count for the Three French Hens prompt of reading a book set in a country different from your own. I love this series as well. The main character is Harriet Gordon. In the first book, she moves to Singapore to help her brother with the school that he is running. And then she ends up getting a job as, not a translator, she types for the police. Like, she types their, what's that called? Oh, I've completely lost the word for that. Anyway, she gets a job like that with the police, and so she gets involved in the cases. And I really like this series. I like the setting that it's in Singapore. I like the time period. It's the Edwardian time period, and yeah, it's just a really fun series. Okay, next up is a Cadenza for Caruso by Barbara Paul. This is a mystery that is set in New York City in 1910, and it is set specifically at the Metropolitan Opera. Caruso, the famous tenor, is a character in the book, which is fantastic. This was just a really fun mystery. This was one written in the 80s, and I just really enjoyed it, and I would read more. If there are more in that series, I would read more from them. It's one that I kind of just found at a book sale, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Okay, The Case of the Canterfell Codicil by P.J. Fitzsimmons. I read this a couple of years ago, and it was so fun. If you're looking for a fun, light-hearted, rompy kind of historical mystery, then this could be right up your alley. It's set in 1928. Woodhouseian gadabout and clubman Auntie Beaujolais takes on his first case when his old Oxford chum and coxswain is facing the gallows, accused of the murder of his wealthy uncle. Not one, but two locked room mysteries later, Auntie's pitting his wits against a subversive butler, a senile footman, a single-minded detective inspector, an irascible goat, and the eccentric conventions of the pastoral Sussex countryside to untangle a multi-layered mystery of secret bequests, ancient writs, love triangles, revenge, and a teasing twist in the final paragraph. Like I said, this was really, really fun. Okay, Murder at Morrington Hall by Clara McKenna. This is a historical mystery set in the Edwardian time period. You have an American heiress, Stella. She comes over to England with her father. She thinks they're there to sell horses. They're from a ranch in Kentucky. But he has set up a marriage with the son of, I believe he's an earl. Lindy is a viscount. Right? So does that make his father an earl? I can't remember. But I really enjoyed this one. I loved that it was set in the Edwardian time period. It's set really close to the New Forest in, is that in New Hampshire? Not New Hampshire, sorry, in Hampshire. There was actually a lot about the New Forest and kind of the rules and what it was like. And so, yeah, again, a really good historical mystery. Okay, next up is Masquerade at Middlecrest Abbey by Abigail Wilson. This one, you might be surprised to hear me recommend this one because it seems to be more of a Regency romance than a mystery. But work with me here because this is a Regency romance with a murder. So I think that it counts. I think this was just a really fun read. It was exactly what you want in a Regency romance with, you know, Napoleonic spies and, you know, adventures and highwaymen and all of that stuff. And then there's even a murder in there for all of us mystery fans. So this one is a really fun option. Okay, Second Street Station by Lawrence H. Levy. This is the first in his Mary Handley series. This is set in Brooklyn in the late 19th century, and Mary ends up becoming the first female police detective, and this one was just really fun, and this one is, honestly, this one is perfect for this prompt, Second Street Station. That is 100% an alliterative title. Okay. Next up are the first two in the Charles Lennox series written by Charles Finch, A Beautiful Blue Death and The September Society. These are Victorian era historical mysteries with gentleman sleuth Charles Lennox, and I really enjoy that series as well. Okay, next up is a standalone, The Funeral of Figaro by Ellis Peters. Ellis Peters is most famous for writing the Brother Cadfael historical mystery series. This one is not historical mystery. It's contemporary, although she wrote it in 1969. So at this point, we might be calling it historical. She called it an operatic whodunit because it is set in the world of the theater. There's an opera troupe who are rehearsing to put on an opera, and there is a murder in the cast. And I really enjoyed that one as well. Double for Death by Rex Stout. This was written in 1939. This is not a Nero Wolfe. Rex Stout did write another series, Tecumseh Fox. I think that's how you say the name. He is a private investigator. He has a sharp eye for clues in a murder case, but this time he's seeing double. The late financier Ridley Thorpe has been shot twice. There are 2 gorgeous suspects, 2 very good motives, 2 hot-headed suitors, and 2 well-used murder weapons. Then there is a second Wall Street murder. I read this year for March Mystery Madness and had so much fun with it. It was great. Okay, Date with Death by Julia Chapman. This is a mystery series set in Yorkshire, and Date with Death is the first book in the series, so that's perfect. The main characters are Delilah Metcalf, who runs a dating agency, and Samson O'Brien, who comes to town and opens a detective agency. And this one is great. I love the setting in Yorkshire, and the mystery was fun. The characters were great. I loved the town that they live in. So yeah, that's a great option. The Marlow Murder Club by Robert Thorogood. This is a mystery from just a few years ago now. The main character is Judith, and she's 77 years old, and her neighbor gets murdered, and she finds the body and so is caught up in the investigation. She meets 2 other women who agree to help her with her investigations, and they create the Marlow Murder Club. And the 2 other women are Susie the dog walker and Bex the vicar's wife. And that one is just a really fun mystery. Murder Mr. Mosley by John Greenwood. This is the first in the Mr. Mosley series. This is a series that was written in the 80s, and Mr. Mosley is hilarious. He's that kind of detective that's a little bit, like a little bit dumpy, and he appears like he appears dumber than he is, maybe, but he's actually a really good detective. His superiors don't like him at all. They're always trying to get rid of him, but he's actually a very good detective who knows his community really well, and he cares about his community, and I loved it. It was a little bit funny. Yeah, just a really entertaining mystery. So that's Murder Mr. Mosley. The Anatomist's Apprentice by Tessa Harris. This is the first Dr. Thomas Silkstone mystery. This is a historical mystery set in the 1780s, and Thomas Silkstone is an American. He is an anatomist who has come over to England and gets involved in murder. And this one, again, I remember really enjoying this one, and this is a series that I would like to reread soon because I did really enjoy it. The Mischief of the Mistletoe by Lauren Willig. This is another one where you might be thinking I'm pushing it a little bit to include it in a mystery readathon, but that's okay. Because this is a Regency era adventure set in Bath. There's enough mystery elements that I count it as a mystery. I love that it's set in Bath, and this particular one in the series is set around the holiday season, so it's perfect. This is a series, maybe you should read it in order, but also maybe it doesn't matter, which is why I'm including it in this recommendation. The Monogram Murders by Sophie Hannah. 3 mysteries in her series would count for this prompt. This is a Hercule Poirot mystery set in 1920s. She's continuing on with the Hercule Poirot stories, and she's just she's decided to set her Hercule Poirot stories in the 1920s. And some people don't like these books because She is not Agatha Christie. And I am okay with that because no one will ever be Agatha Christie. And I think she knows the stories well enough, and she knows Hercule Poirot well enough that she doesn't really mess around with his character. And I enjoyed this book. So The Monogram Murders. Murder at the Mill by M.B. Shaw. This is a mystery set during the holidays, so that makes it even more perfect. Iris Gray arrives at Mill Cottage in a picture-perfect Hampshire village, looking to escape from her crumbling marriage. She's drawn to the neighboring Weatherby family and is commissioned to paint a portrait of Dominic Weatherby, a celebrated crime writer. At the Weatherby's family party, the wine is in full flow, but so too are tensions and rivalries among the guests. The next day, the youngest member of the Weatherby family, Lorcan, finds a body in the water. So this one is a great option to read for Cloak and Dagger Christmas because it is set during the holidays. First Frost by James Henry. This is the first in his D.I. Jack Frost prequel series set in Denton in 1981. I love the Jack Frost series written by R.D. Wingfield. And if you want to try from that series, from the originals, Frost at Christmas is the first one in the series, so it could be a perfect option to read in December. It could be one of your wild card reads. But First Frost is James Henry's prequel to the Jack Frost series, and again, I did enjoy it. Murder in the Marais by Cara Black is the first in her Amy Leduc series. Now this one could also fit for if you want to double up. It would fit with Three French Hens because it is set in Paris. It's the first in the series. Amy Leduc is a private investigator, and this first book is set in 1993. And I think that I read it years ago, but I don't really remember anything about it, so I want to read it again and then continue on with the series. Malice in Magady by Joan Hess. This is the first in her Arlie Hanks series. Arlie Hanks is the chief of police of Magady, which is a town in Arkansas that has less than 900 people in it. And I lived for a while in a town with 800 people, so I got it. I got a lot of what was going on here with the small town. Most of the books in this series will count for this prompt. If you've already read some of the books in this series, you can continue on and count it for this prompt. This series is wacky. It has crazy characters, but the mysteries are good. Arlie Hanks, she's a good chief of police. She just wants to do her best. But this town is populated with some really weird characters, and I loved the humor in this book. Death on Demand by Carolyn Hart. This is the first in the Death on Demand series. Annie Lawrence owns the Death on Demand bookstore on Broward's Rock Island in South Carolina. So I love that it is set in a mystery bookstore, and yeah, it's a great series, and Death on Demand is the first one. The Brothers of Baker Street by Michael Robertson. This is the second in the Baker Street Letters series. Lawyer Reggie Heath has offices at 221B Baker Street in London. And as part of his lease, he is required to respond to letters that arrive for Sherlock Holmes. And I just think that is a great premise for a mystery series. Okay, and then we have the Book Collector series by Victoria Abbott. The Christie Curse, The Sayer's Swindle, The Wolf Widow, Marsh Madness, and The Hammett Hex. These are a series of cozy mysteries set in Harrison Falls, New York. Our main character is Jordan Kelly, and she gets a research position hunting down rare mysteries for a book collector. And this was just a really fun series. I loved the connection with mystery books. And so the Christie Curse, obviously that's Agatha Christie. The Sayers Swindle, that's Dorothy L. Sayers. The Wolf Widow is Nero Wolfe. Sorry, I blanked out for a minute there, because this is the only one that has the detective in the title instead of the author in the title. Marsh Madness is Nia Marsh, and Hammett Hex is Dashiell Hammett. And so yeah, that is a really fun, cozy mystery series. And that is it. Those are my recommendations for A Partridge in a Pear Tree, to read a mystery with an alliterative title. Let me know in the comment section down below a mystery that you know of with an alliterative title, because I am still putting together my own pile of possibilities for Cloak and Dagger Christmas, and I'm always excited to discover new mysteries. And I will see you for another recommendations video very soon. Bye.